الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فقال الله تعالى يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله تعالى وأحسن الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار أما بعد رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Dear brothers and sisters, today I wish to share with you the life of a man that I've wanted to share in the khutbah for a long time. And I was waiting for the month of February for a specific reason. I want to share with you the life of my role model in the recent American history. A role model in strength and bravery and courage and openness and sincerity. Someone who made the journey of a life of extreme sin to a life of giving back, to the point that he gave his life for what he believed in. Many people may be thinking of maybe a major a sheikh from an Arab country, maybe someone from Pakistan, maybe someone from Bangladesh. Because many brothers and sisters from immigrant backgrounds have this feeling that they are the ones who brought Islam to America. But there is nothing far from the truth. In fact, Islam was in America for a very long time, way before the immigrants started coming. Islam was here, according to some sources, Islam was here before Christopher Columbus. And definitely, Islam was here at the time of Christopher Columbus. Many slaves which were kidnapped from African countries that were so-called forced slaves that were brought to America, many of them were Muslim because they were captured from Muslim countries. And not only that, some of these so-called slaves were not only educated people, but some of them were scholars of the highest levels. And some of them, in fact, there's a famous book of a prince of one of the countries, I think it was Ghana or something like that. A prince, he was out towards the shore to do something that he needed to do, and the Europeans came with their superior firepower And they captured him, put chains on him, and brought him to America as a slave. And this, the European slavery of blacks based on the skin color is one of the worst crimes that happened in the history of humanity. If you read about the details of this, how they were brought, how they were captured, how they were, in America, how they were brutalized. They were considered less than human until very recently. And even now, some people feel that. And Islam, what Islam has to say about this is that if you think that someone is less than you because of his skin color, or if you think that someone is better than you because of his skin color, because some people have a reverse racism as well. They feel that, no offense to white people here, but some people have this thing because of what has happened in the past few centuries, is that, whoever is lighter is better, and whoever is darker is worse. If someone has the smallest doubt like this in their heart, they have not understood Islam. They have not understood Islam at all. They have not understood Islam at all. The ayat that we recite in the beginning of the khutbah is, O mankind, we created you from a single soul. And from it we created his spouse. And every single person, black, white, red, yellow, purple, green, whatever color you can think of, came from those two. And the Prophet ﷺ said, كُلُّكُم مِّنْ آدَمْ وَآدَمُ مِّن تُرَابٍ. All of you are from Adam, and Adam was from dirt. So, Islam was here. And there have been multiple waves. There have been several waves of Islam in America. And there's one of the scholars in America by the name of Sheikh Abdullah Hakim Quick. Sheikh Abdullah Hakim Quick. He has a lot of lectures. He's a specialist in Islamic history, and especially the history of Islam in the West. So you can look him up and read his books and listen to his lectures. He will tell you with his sources how there were tribes of Muslims in America, amongst the Native Americans even. So, but my hero was born in 1925. And he was an African American. He was not from any other country. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy on him. Amen. My hero, my role model in the recent American history is none other than Malcolm X. And when you hear the name Malcolm X, if the words "May Allah have mercy on him" doesn't come out of your heart, it means that you have not yet understood what Malcolm X stood for. Because when you read about him, when you learn about him, you see that this man was one of the greatest ni'mah, one of the greatest blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the Muslims. And in fact, as we will see later on, that he was killed. He was killed, and there was I'm sure you're not surprised that the FBI has a file on everybody. The higher you get in terms of fame and popularity, the thicker this file gets. And they are monitoring the people to make sure what's going on here. When somebody gets elected to become the prime minister of some country, he's no stranger, because they have already been tracking him for 15, 20, 30 years, and they know what his limits are, what he can do and what he cannot do. And they also obviously had a file on Malcolm X. And they said in this file on Malcolm X, rahimahullah, they said that he had the capacity and the capability to unite the Muslims of the world. He was that person. The strength of character, the speaking abilities, the knowledge, the sincerity. He was a leader of the highest level. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy on him. Amen. His father was a preacher. His father was a preacher I believe, in Nebraska. And he was killed by the Ku Klux Klan by putting him on a train track and let the train pass over his skull. He was, obviously, when the father was not there anymore, the family was broken up and they were put into a series of foster homes. And obviously foster homes are not very conducive environments for the upbringing of children. So he went through different houses and he was in school. And in school there was a teacher that Malcolm used to love and respect very much. And one day Malcolm shared with him. They were asking, what do you want to be? What do you want to be when you grow up? And Malcolm said to him that when I grow up, I want to be a lawyer. So his teacher said to him that you are black. You can't be a lawyer. Maybe you should be a carpenter. Maybe you should be a carpenter. And from this point, Malcolm basically descended into a life of street petty crime. Because, think about this, when a kid says, I want to be a lawyer, and you tell him you can't be a lawyer because of your skin color, what else does he have to perform for? What else does he have to accomplish for? Why should he work hard when he's still going to be at the lowest of the low? Perhaps. So, he descends into a life of petty crime. He became known as Detroit Red. And then, eventually, there was something that they had done and they got caught up, and there was two black guys and two white ladies. They were involved in the same crime. It was a robbery. And they were all arrested. They were all arrested. And the two black guys got, I think, 10 or 12 years each. And the two white girls were let go. And they said, those two guys must have forced these two to come with them. And they were let go. And once again, we're not preaching hatred against white people, but we're telling that the story of Malcolm X is basically this contrast between black and white until towards the end where he reached the ultimate balance, the balance of Islam. He was sent to jail, and in jail he met someone from the Nation of Islam who told him all of this. We could just say that some of this stuff was right, but most of it stuff was wrong, in the sense that as a result of the oppression that happened to the African Americans in America, this group called Nation of Islam, which had nothing to do with Islam. When you think Nation of Islam, don't think Islam. It was an organization where they used the name of Islam, the symbolism of Islam, but there was no salah there. They used to read from the Bible most of the times, right? It was basically an organization, and the symbolism of Islam was used. So they had this philosophy of ultimate reaction to the oppression of the whites against the blacks, where they said, look, you know what? This is all false. The white man is the devil. The white man is the devil, and that's the philosophy that they were learning and preaching. Malcolm X joined them, and he, in the prison, when they told him that, look, you don't have to feel that you're less than anyone because you're black. He started his personality. He recognized who he is and what he can do. He's not inferior from anybody else. He's not less than anybody else. And thus he started studying. And in the cell of his prison, he memorized the entire dictionary. And if you were to count the lessons that you can learn from the life of Malcolm X, there are too many for us to go over in one khutbah or maybe in 100 khutbahs, because of the simple profoundness of this person. But one of the profound lessons from his life is that even if a person is in jail, his mind is free. Even if a person is in jail, his mind is free. And if a person is involved in the life of crime, and now he's in jail, this is one of the greatest chances where he can transform himself. He can transform himself and recognize that your mind is free. That's what it is. Your mind is free People can put your body in jail, but they cannot put your mind in jail. You have the Quran, and you have the time. You can memorize the entire Quran. You can memorize books of hadith. You can memorize the dictionary. You can memorize anything when you're there, so that when you come out, you cannot be jailed anymore. You cannot be jailed anymore. And this is a lesson from the life of Malcolm X that you see throughout his life, that no one was able to stop Malcolm X. No one was able to stop Malcolm X from what he wanted to do and what he believed that he should do. What he did is that he was an amazing speaker. Until today, you can go on YouTube and just put in Malcolm X, and there are lots and lots of speeches of Malcolm X. And you listen to him, and the amazing thing that you feel, that I feel at least, is that I feel as if the internet is at his fingers. The amount of information he has. The amount of information he has. The internet is on his fingers, but there was no internet in that time. In the 50s and 60s, there was no internet. But he did his time, he did his research, and he learned. And he rose through the ranks of Nation of Islam and became the most famous minister. They used to have, although it was called the Nation of Islam, but their leaders used to be called ministers. And he became Minister Malcolm. And at that time, actually in the prison, one of the things that they taught the people is that your last name is not your last name. His name by birth was Malcolm Little. And they said your name is not your last name, because this last name has been given to you as the name of your slave owner. So your grandfather or great-grandfather who was a slave, his last name was the name of his master, his white master. So this name shouldn't be with you. And that's why everyone who joined the Nation of Islam, they dropped their last name and they became X. And that's where it comes, Malcolm X. X as in to mark that our last name was taken away from us. Our identity was taken away from us. And once again, a lesson that I've shared before is the importance of your last name. The last name that you have shows your identity. And even in Islam, it is not allowed for a person to change his last name because he likes another last name better. The last name is the name of your father. And the name of your family goes with it, right? So Muhammad ibn Abdullah. When you change this last name to anything else, your identity is taken away. Who you are, your lineage is taken away. And there's no such thing as a Muslim name. Understand this, everyone, brothers and sisters. You know, from Pakistan, Bangladesh, different countries, many people have this misunderstanding that when a person becomes Muslim, he has to change his name to a Muslim name. There is no such thing as a Muslim name. There is no such thing as a Muslim name. What was the Muslim name of Umar ibn al-Khattab? Umar ibn al-Khattab. What was the non-Muslim name of Umar ibn al-Khattab? Umar ibn al-Khattab. What was the Muslim name of Khalid ibn al-Walid? Khalid ibn al-Walid. What was the non-Muslim name of Khalid ibn al-Walid? Khalid ibn al-Walid. The only name which is wrong is the name in which there is some problem. So for example, one of the companions, his name was Abdul Masih, the slave of Isa. So the Prophet ﷺ changed his name and said, "You're not Abdul Masih, you are Abdul Rahman." There was one little girl that came, and her name was a flame. That her father had given her a name which meant a flame, a fire. The Prophet said, "No, this is not a good name. A fire is not a good name." So he gave a good name, which is Barra, righteous, right? So that's the only name that has a problem, but your last name is your identity, your lineage. And your first name, it should be the name that you were given at birth. Malcolm, Michael, Joseph, John, Lawrence, none of these things. There's nothing wrong with these names. This is a misunderstanding that needs to be dropped. This is a misunderstanding that needs to be dropped. So, Malcolm X organized the Nation of Islam to a very powerful, organized group. To the point that one time, one of the brothers, one of the people in Malcolm X, we don't necessarily call them brothers because we don't recognize Nation of Islam as Muslims, right? But because, before anything else, the leader of Nation of Islam, Elijah Muhammad, he taught the people, and the people believed in him to be a prophet of Allah. So he was a liar. He was a kadhab. He was a kadhab, not just in this case, but many other cases, as Malcolm realized later on. So one person was beat up by the police brutally, and then arrested. And the word reached Malcolm X that one of our brothers has been beaten to a pulp, and now he's in jail, and he might die. So Malcolm ordered everyone, let's go. Everyone came out, 200, 300, I don't know how many hundreds of people. They came and they stood at attention like a soldier in a line in front of the police station. Malcolm, with a few other people, went up to the police station, to the police. And he said, we need to see, I think his name was Joseph, right? We need to see Brother Joseph, and we need to see if he's getting proper medical attention. And you know that this is the 50s. There's no civil rights at this time. There's no equality. There's nothing like that. So the white police officer has said something like, boy, get out of the police station. Get out of the police station. So Malcolm said to him, please take a look outside the window. You want me to get outside? You look outside, see what's going on. And he looked outside, and there are these soldiers, 200, 300, 400 soldiers standing at attention like this. And he said, okay, so can we see Brother Joseph now? Yes, you can. You see, and here is another lesson for us, which is unity and organization. Being organized is what gives us strength. That's what gives us strength, and that's what Islam teaches us, that as Muslims, we need to be united and we need to be organized. At this point, if you don't like the color of the coat of Malcolm, and you've told him that please don't wear blue, but he keeps wearing blue, when Brother Joseph is beaten up, this is not the time to say, you know what, Malcolm doesn't wear the coat that I like, so I'm not going to go and stand up for my brother. That's an absurd example, but that's exactly what happens in many cases. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from this unity.
Amen.
And by the show of strength, they were able to get medical attention. They had him taken out of the jail cell, put in the ambulance, and sent to the hospital while they were standing there. And at that time, the chief of police came out, and he looked at all of this. And Malcolm, after they were all done, Malcolm said to all of them, all of the people standing, Malcolm said, like this. And they all turned and they started walking this way, like soldiers. And he said, this is too much power for one man. This is too much power from one man. And perhaps from there, they started seeing him as a threat. Now, he rose through the ranks because of his sincerity, because what he believed in, he didn't give up on anything. He believed in it, and he spoke the truth, and he spoke strongly. What happened in 1963, as you know, is that President Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas. He was shot. And Elijah Muhammad, the leader of Nation of Islam, he sent a message. He said, none from the Nation of Islam are to say a word about this, because the public opinion will turn against us. Don't say anything, stay quiet. Everyone was quiet, but the reporters, Malcolm now, he was a celebrity outside of Nation of Islam. He became more powerful than the Nation of Islam. He became the face of the black Muslim movement, as it was known at that time. So the press came to him. They said, what do you have to say about this? So Malcolm said that this is a case of the chickens coming home to roost. What he meant was that America has been assassinating other world leaders in other countries. They have been sending, actually President Kennedy is the one that started the Green Beret movement, which is the special forces, which goes into other countries secretly, and they kill whoever they want to kill, whoever is causing problem, whoever is telling people, why do we have to stand down, all of these things. They go inside and they go take care of him. They first try to bribe him. If he doesn't get sold out, then they kill him, right? He said, America has been doing this all over the world, so it's about time that these chickens are going to come home to roost, right? Nothing necessarily personally against President Kennedy, but just a general statement. However, the Nation of Islam Elijah Muhammad was very angry at this, and they silenced him for, I think, 90 days. They said, you're not allowed, you are suspended for 90 days, you're not allowed to say anything, you're not a minister for the next 90 days. Now, one of the sons of Elijah Muhammad had come to Malcolm X, and he said that I want to talk to you. He said, what do you want to talk to me about? He said that you believe in my father as a prophet, but my father has a whole bunch of young secretaries, personal secretaries, that are doing more work for him than just his paperwork and taking his phone calls. They are having his kids. And once they become pregnant, they are put in a house, a building separate from everybody else, and no one is allowed to talk to them. So initially, he didn't believe in this. He said, this is no way, I can't. Elijah Muhammad was the one who gave him his identity. And he said, there's no way this could be true. However, when he was silenced for 90 days, at this time he was himself angry. Why did they do this to me when I said the right thing, what needed to be said? At that time, it gave him some intellectual space in his mind to think independently and critically about Nation of Islam. And at that time, he said, let me go and investigate what I was told earlier. And that's exactly what happened. He looked around and he reached the house where all these girls were. And there were different houses for different girls, and they were not allowed to talk to anybody, and the story checked out. At that time, Malcolm realized that no, this is false, this is not right. And there's a great lesson to be learned here, by the way. Although Malcolm at this time was not Muslim, Elijah Muhammad was not Muslim. However, the lesson that the scholars have taught us, and our deen has taught us throughout, is the discouragement from being attached to personalities. Our deen teaches us, do not be attached to a single personality, except if it's the Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And even that to only a certain level. And the first example of this is in the Quran, where in the battle of Uhud, when the Prophet ﷺ was injured and he fell unconscious, a rumor spread out that said that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ has been killed. So some of the companions, they dropped their swords and they said, what else do we have left to fight for if the Prophet has been killed? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed an ayah. He said, وَمَا مُحَمَّدٌ إِلَّا رَسُولٌ. Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is nothing except a messenger. وَمَا مُحَمَّدٌ إِلَّا رَسُولٌ قَدْ خَلَتْ مِنْ قَبْلِهِ الرُّسُلُ. And there have been other messengers before him. أَفَإِن مَاتَ أَوْ قُتِلَ إِنْ قَلَبْتُمْ عَلَىٰ أَعْقَابِكُمْ. If he is killed or he dies, will you turn your backs? Are you Muslim because of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, or are you Muslim because of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So this is what this ayah was revealed in the battle of Uhud. And when the Prophet ﷺ actually passed away, when he actually passed away in the 10th year after Hijrah, many of the companions again had this reaction where they gave up. They had this feeling of what else is left. And we know the famous example that Uthman radiallahu anhu was hiding in his house. And many of the companions, others, were hiding in their houses. Some of them couldn't talk. Some of them couldn't stand up. Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu took out his sword and he says, whoever says that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has been killed, I will chop off his head. They are hypocrites. Because they couldn't fathom, they couldn't understand, they couldn't realize that a personality as Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam could leave us and not be with us anymore. And then Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu came and he said, oh Umar, sit down, be quiet. Umar didn't be quiet, he kept going on. Then Abu Bakr just moved away from him and he just started his own speech. And he praised Allah. And he sent salawat upon the Prophet ﷺ. And he said, من كان يعبد محمدا فإن محمدا قد مات ومن كان يعبد الله فإن الله حي لا يموت. Whoever used to worship Muhammad ﷺ, let him know that Muhammad ﷺ has now died. But whoever worships Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, let him know that Allah is alive and He is ever living, He will never die. And then he recited that same ayah which was revealed in Uhud. وَمَا مُحَمَّدٌ إِلَّا رَسُولٌ قَدْ خَلَتْ مِنْ قَبْلِهِ الرُّسُلُ أَفَإِنْ مَاتَ أَوْ قُتِلَ انْقَلَبْتُمْ عَلَىٰ أَعْقَابِكُمْ. That Muhammad ﷺ is nothing but a messenger. You are worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You are worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so do not let this hold you back from being good Muslims. What's the lesson here? The lesson here is that the Prophet ﷺ was innocent from sins. He did not commit any sins. This is the belief of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. He was free from any sins. But any other man after Muhammad ﷺ, after the prophets, is not perfect. And he will fall into sins. The Prophet ﷺ said that every son of Adam is a sinner. This obviously excludes the prophets. Every son of Adam is a sinner. And the best of the sinner is the one who repents from his sin. So this is something that we have to realize, that the person you look up to, your imam maybe, your scholar, the revival of the century, whoever you look up to, he may fall into sin. He may fall into sin, and if that happens, it should not distract you from continuing on your mission that you believed in the first place. You believed in the first place. Why am I mentioning this? I'm mentioning this because many times a famous personality falls into sin. And because of this, many people who are looking up to him, they leave that path. They go away from Islam because the one that they believed in and trusted in has committed a sin like this. And the reason why I'm saying this is because some of you have seen in the media that a famous, well-known scholar in the Chicago area was arrested for molesting several women. Okay? And there was a whole track where they had sat down together and apologized, and then it had happened multiple times, multiple victims. Why am I mentioning this on the minbar? Because the shaitan is going to tell you, you know what? All of these guys, they're all doing stuff like this. You don't need to go to the masjid and pray behind them. You can just do your own prayer at home. You don't need to be involved in your community. Just be on your own. This is exactly what shaitan wants, to break you away. To break you away from coming to the masjid, from being attached to your deen. So remember, the Prophet ﷺ said, every son of Adam is a sinner. Every son of Adam is a sinner. And everyone will commit sins. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us all. Amen. And protect us from sins, from major sins and minor sins. But if someone that you believe in, your teacher, falls into sin, because of that, don't leave your masjid. Don't leave your Islam. Don't leave your prayers. But going back to Malcolm X, at this time, he distanced himself from the Nation of Islam. He distanced himself from the Nation of Islam, and he became a real Muslim at this time. Several other Muslims had invited him to become a real Sunni Muslim, and they told him, look, they didn't want to call him out that what you are doing is not Islam. But they said, look, read this, read the Quran, read this, read that. And at this point, he read and he became a real Muslim. Rahimahullah. He became a real Muslim, and he decided in 1964 to go to Hajj. He decided to go to Hajj. And remember, until now, Malcolm X has been saying that the white man is the devil. The white man is the devil, and they actually used to believe that there were no races except the black people. And there was a crazy scientist that did an experiment, and he's the one who made white people. So this is basically a Frankenstein type of thing that, an experiment gone bad. But once again, this is also against Islam. This is also far from the truth, right? White people here are feeling uncomfortable right now. Don't feel uncomfortable. This is when Malcolm X went to the Hajj. When he went to Hajj, he noticed something. And one of the things is that in Hajj, all the men have to wear the same white garments. And he was in a tent together, wearing the same 2 white garments. And the person next to him in his tent, is a person with blonde hair and blue eyes, light skin, the white man. He's there as a white man. And this white man next to him is wearing the same garments as Malcolm X is wearing. When they stand for prayer, he comes together and puts his shoulder and feet together with him. And he doesn't feel any kind of disgust. And when it's time to eat, a plate is put where everyone is taking his hand and putting in, eating from there, and the white man is eating from there. And Malcolm X is eating from there, and he's looking at his face. He doesn't feel bad that he's eating with me. And boom, it hit him. Islam is a solution to racism. Islam is a solution to racism. And he came back after this experience with this new idea that he learned from Islam, that Islam is the solution to racism. And when he came back, he didn't say that the white man is the devil anymore. Right? He said, in fact, all human beings, basically what the Islamic belief is. He came back, he went to tour several other African countries, he gave speeches, and he formed a separate organization. I think it was called the Organization for Afro-American Unity. And he came back a new man. And at this point, the Nation of Islam, they really could not swallow him. They could not swallow him because now, he was the one who basically built Nation of Islam. Before him, the Nation of Islam was a very, small little organization. But he's the one who built it, and now he left, and now they're afraid that people will go there. So what happened is that they decide that they need to get rid of him. And along with this, the records show that the CIA and the FBI had an interest in Malcolm X getting killed. CIA manages the world affairs, and they are afraid about what Malcolm X can become for the world. And when he came back from Hajj, what his plan was that he was going to take the United States of America as a criminal to the United Nations and file a case against them that the United States of America has oppressed the black race. They had oppressed the black race. And he came back and he was, basically giving his speeches here and there every chance that he could. And first, on Valentine's Day, the Nation of Islam gave him a Valentine's Day present. What did they do? They firebombed his house while he was sleeping with his wife and children at home. And a few days later, on February 21st, which is tomorrow, February 21st, Malcolm X was speaking at the Audubon Theater in Harlem. And he came out, and there was a young boy that used to work with him, and Malcolm sent him out. He said, go do something for me, make this phone call. He said, I can make this phone call later. He said, no, go and make this phone call now. Malcolm knew. He knew, and he wanted to save the life of this young kid because he was going to be standing right next to him. He came out, he said, Assalamu alaikum, on the podium. He said, Assalamu alaikum, and there was a commotion in the crowd, and this one guy said, get your hand out of my pocket. And everyone is looking there. Well, 2 guys get up, and they shoot, I think, 15 bullets in the body of Malcolm X. You look at him today, you can go to a website called thesmokinggun.com, and you look at the picture of Malcolm X. He has a smile. All of his teeth are out. All of his teeth are out. And guess how his finger is? His finger is like this. His finger is like this. And like I said, the FBI wrote about him that he had the ability to unite the Muslims of the world behind him. He would have been that leader. But may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy on him. He was killed on location, right there within seconds when they shot him on February 21st, 1965. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy on Malcolm X. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq to benefit from his life and his lessons. There were many things that he taught, and until today they are relevant. Until today they are relevant. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب